Hello, miss. My name is Angelo V. Umali, and I am from m2a. And finally, we're in the end part, and we're going to cross this Rubicon together. Um, More than I want to congratulate myself, I want to congratulate you as well, because we all know on how difficult and tough this time is, and COVID-19, unprecedented. Everybody knows it, and I think that there would come a time where in the ripe old and age of where we're grandparents, where we're going to sit down with our grandchildren and then talk to them about COVID-19. Like, that's how significant COVID-19 is, like, in the entire history of the world. That, wow, I can even put into words. Okay, so I have here my phone, and I have here all the guide questions that you've given to us, and I'm going to try and answer them one by one, and hopefully I gave a sufficient answer that may satisfy what it is that you're asking for. So let's go one by one together. Okay, complete name and section. Okay, I think I've already said that. Your general experience with prime learning in the course, able to hit expectations before, difficulty level, enjoyment factor. Okay, so generally speaking, it was, what's the word that I'm looking for? Well, it's literature. It's Philippine literature. One thing that you could be able to know about me, I think you could see that based on my essays, that I'm a filmmaker. But more than being a filmmaker, like to the core, in essence, I'm a storyteller, and I'm someone who loves stories. I love telling stories. Like, I remember listening and doing and doodling. I used to do comics too, and I was just doing stories as far back as I can remember. And literature hits a chord with me, like, very significantly. And that's because, more than, we have prose. In writing a film, there's this called screenplay, which is prose, but you can also make it poetry. And what's poetry for me, and I also do poetry every now and then, for me, poetry, why am I talking about poetry? Okay, I'm very sorry. I know that I have a very short amount of time to be able to explain. I think it was 2 to 3 minutes. I'm sorry if I'm going to go over that. But just to give you a gist of why I love literature in general, is just because, well, I love stories, right? And literature, we have different kind of stories in literatures. Okay, some literatures doesn't have stories, and some literatures are better than others in telling stories, but you get the point. So, your favorite era of Philippine literature. Favorite era of Philippine literature. So, I think my favorite era, and I think it shows already in, my final, my climax kind of a assessment kind of a thingy happening. And I think it shows there that I really love postmodern, or after the Republic, after Marcos's regime. And this is because, and the reason why I love this is because, when you try and look at the American version of that, like, that's the prior version of that, like, we kind of have this connotation that it's the imitative era, like it's all imitation, like we're trying to be them. But I think that, like, for the longest time ever, like even before that, Spanish colonial rule, we're kind of imitating and how the Spanish did it. We have this certain modes of doing it. But what I love about the post-Marcos era is because for the first time ever, like, we're so, what do you call this? We're so uniquely grounded in terms of expressing ourselves in different types of variations and gradations of the topic that we can talk about. And it really is because the amount of that knowledge, the circulating knowledge, and the amount of exposure of that art form, which is literature, fiction or non-fiction, is so prevalent in the world at that time. And it's so, it's not in the baby stage anymore in terms of, we're talking about Philippines. It's not in this baby stage anymore. It's been impregnated, and it's been conceived over times over. And then for the first time ever, those people that's doing poetry, doing literature, are the people of, everyday man. The everyday man is writing poetry all of a sudden. Like before, during the times of Rizal, during the times of Balagtas, these are the kinds of people that really had, high educational attainment. Or, there's some kind of aristocratic, if you will. And during the education period, the educative period that the Thomasites and the early Americans have brought to us, they gave us the access to all of these literatures, even their literatures and even literatures coming from the Western world that from the way back before we didn't have access to, if we try to look at it that way, simply because, well, that the everyday man doesn't have access to it. The everyday man has to worry about farming, worry about not being colonized or getting paying tribute to the Spanish friars during that time. But after that, right, after the colonialization, after that birth, so to speak, we have created a new era of of something that we could say that's truly Filipino, springing up also. I'm not saying that it didn't, it's not influenced by any kind of era. I'm saying that for the first time ever, like, we get to choose where we get to be inspired from, and that's why I love the post Marcos era, because it's not like post Marcos era. Like, if you're talking about like the very early stages of post Marcos era, of course we're going to talk about Marcos, right? It's a 20-year reign of a leader, and people call him a fascist, right? And it's so long that it's 2 decades long that people are eventually going to write about it, even ridicule it in some ways that they can. And so after that, right? After that, like, when everything is said and done, although there's still controversies in politics and in every part, like the likes of Gloria, the likes of Joseph Estrada, and we still have that. But the way that we're so free of it, like, not just by making it political, that we can really make it into a way that that really represent what it is that we want to say, other than um, political instituted topics. So I guess I've I've overstayed my welcome for that question. So next question is the top 3 parts/experiences of the modules. Top 3 parts, and experiences of the modules. Well, I guess on the top of the list is one of my featured works, literary works, which is Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag ni Edgardo M. Reyes. Edgardo M. Reyes. And really, what I love about it is because I've watched the movie first by none other than national artist Lino Broca. Now, Lino Broca is an amazing filmmaker because, there's this thing called the Criterion Collection. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. So basically, the Criterion Collection is this collection of films, right? And not every films get to be included in the Criterion Collection. And are all of the Philippine cinema, like, combined from start up until today, there's only 2 Filipino films in the Criterion Collection, and surprisingly enough, Lino Broca has both of them, right? He has 2 films included in the Criterion Collection, one of which is the film adaptation of that book, which is Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag, then changed to film, which is called Maynila, Sa Kuko ng Agila, which translate to Manila in the Claws of the Night, of the Light, sorry. So that's how amazing it is. And when I found out about it, that it's actually featured, and I actually read about it when browsing to the modules, it really hit me. Like, what? Like, this is a part of what I'm going to learn, and I've already learned about it like some time ago. Like, not, and it really blew my mind because I love that film like so much. And if you haven't seen the film, like, by any means, if you're going to get a copy of it or somewhere you're gonna watch it, I highly recommend that film. Really amazing film. Its surreptitious nature is really amazing, and I like how there. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's really a covert way of trying to obscure what really is happening. So you are presented with this chaotic nature of this protagonist, but what's really underneath it, right? What's really underneath it is what's so deep that's going to crush you in the end of the film, which I'm going to leave for you to find out. Okay? Sorry. Okay, so top 3 parts. So that's top 1. The second one would have to be the Umpukan. And I remember Umpukan quite quite clearly, and this the reason for that is because, well, it's kind of the definition of Umpukan really it's kind of a flippant kind of an explanation, but it says that for tao na hindi kakilala, kapag nakisabat sa usapan ay maaaring matawag na atribita o something like that, and it goes out like that, and just like, what? Like, it's so playful in nature, like the way that it's explained to me, and it really caught me off guard because I was so focused on, okay, what's this about? Okay, read, and then that hit me on a whole other level. And it's really I actually took a screenshot of that, and because it's that funny, and what else? So that's top 2, I guess. Okay, so my number 3 would have to be, and I'm thinking right now, top 3 would have to be Philippine literature. Well, definitely I didn't know about all of the people, like there's different eras in terms of Philippine literature. Like, I know just literature, like just by, okay, this literature by that, literature by that, and I don't really look at them in eras. Like, I look at them in terms of, yeah, that's a piece by this and that author and then work. I never look at them in specific epochs. And what really what's really is interesting for me is the way that each literature epoch serves a different zeitgeist that kind of circulates and becomes the nature and the spirit of that time, which is amazing. Okay, so that's my top 1. My top 3. Top 1 would have to be the film, Lino Broca, and then Kuko ng Liwanag. Number 2 is the Umpukan. Number 3 is that the way that it's represented in different eras and different epochs. Okay, so you may end this video with a personal message to your teacher. Note for self-logs, please show the border and okay. So, message for you, miss. Well, I don't believe that we've actually had a kind of a class together, so really I have no idea whatsoever even to what you look like, and I can only look at your avatar in Canvas, and that's probably my first and only connection with you in terms of trying to peruse and analyze just even your visage. And I guess what my personal message would have to be, like, I don't know if you're someone who's like really invested and really loves literature, but my personal message to you is that regardless of where you stand and whether you love it so much or just the average or you don't love it that much, I think that each and every one of us has this appreciation for art, regardless if you're an artist or not. Like, you can appreciate art from a distance because art is universal, because art is us. And so I guess it's my time now to make an assignment to you. Like, you've been given this assignment, I think it's time for me now to give you an assignment. And so my assignment for you is, like, if you get to be watching another film, like, put this in your watch list. Like, I'm not saying that you gotta watch this ASAP. Like, if you get the hands and you get a copy of Lino Broca's Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag, I highly recommend to you that film for you to watch. And I guess that's it, and that's the only gift that I can give to you. The brilliance of that film and the way it's clandestine in nature really blew me away. And I already know the tips and the tricks, each and every film out there. I used to review films. I'm a film lover and I'm a cinephile, and I love watching films, but this film still blew me away. So I guess you gotta take it for that. So thank you, miss, and I hope you stay safe and your family as well, and God bless.